Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you, our future Vandals and future Vandal parents, to our future Vandal Town Hall. We are so pleased to have the opportunity to visit with you this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to walk through some quick reminders on how our Town Hall will take place. To ensure that everyone is familiar with the technology, this webinar will be recorded. For those that need to jump off early or information you'd like to review again, we will be sure to get the recording out to each of you. You will not be able to use your audio for anything other than listening. This is to ensure that all of you can hear our panelists and to minimize background noise. Be sure to send your questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You may not see your question pop up, but please know that we have moderators who are communicating those questions with the panelists or are answering those questions individually. We may not be able to answer all of your questions this evening. Should there be questions that are important to you and you'd like an answer, please email us at futurevandals@uidaho.edu and we will be sure to follow up with you. I do have the pleasure this evening of introducing the rest of the panelists. With us, we have Professor Barbara Kirschmeyer, who is our Director of First Year Writing and a 3-time alumni of the University of Idaho, and also an Idaho native. We also have Linda Campos with us. She is the Associate Vice President for Finance and our Controller. Dr. Blaine Eccles is with us, and he is our Vice Provost for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. My name is Dean Kaler, and I'm Vice Provost for Enrollment Management. We are also very fortunate this evening to have our top Vandal with us, President Scott Greene. President Greene, thank you for participating with us this evening. I'll turn it over to you for some comments prior to going to the Q&A. President Greene?
Thank you. Very much appreciate that, Dean. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here. Let me first just congratulate you on being admitted to one of the top public universities in the country. I'm excited to discuss our great university with you, share with you our plans for this fall, and answer any questions you might have. This is an unprecedented time, and we're moving forward with our plans for fall with health and safety all top of mind. We plan to offer live in-person classes starting Monday, August 24th, here at the University of Idaho. Some will tell you that high school is the best time of your life, but I'm here to put your mind at ease that college is so much better than high school. It's a place where you'll meet incredible people, learn about things you're actually interested in from faculty that know what they're talking about, and conduct research or a project that will give you the experience you need to chart a path for your future. Nearly 40 years ago, I faced the same choice you are making now. I was fortunate to grow up here at the University of Idaho. My grandfather was athletic director here, and I had Memorial Gym as my playground and backyard. That feeling of a Vandal family brought me back as a student and later as president. This university helped form the person I am today. I earned an accounting degree here, but regardless of the profession you seek, we have the support you'll need. Know that you're getting an education from an institution ranked by US News and World Report in the top 6% of all public universities and colleges in the country, and of best value, and one that puts the needs of its students first. Architecture, advertising, computer science, fisheries, there are more than 300 degree options for you to choose from. We're affordable. If you need help, we offer more than $30 million in scholarships and waivers to help defray costs. We're among the safest college campuses in the country and are doing our part to cultivate an environment where you can feel safe at home. In fact, we're usually always ranked in the top 20 safest campuses in the country. We're committed to ensuring everyone feels welcome, included, and respected. Our faculty are at the top of their game, worldwide leaders in their field and leaders in the classroom. They become mentors and friends. You'll have the opportunity to get involved with their research. Between a half to 2/3 of our undergraduates conduct research year in, year out. We're one of the few universities in the nation that can say that. And your investment will pay off. Vandal graduates earn the highest average starting salaries of any public university in Idaho. You're learning the skills needed to compete at the highest levels. Our partners in industry tell me they love hiring Vandals because they come to work prepared and ready to contribute. We are opening in person, but it'll look a little different this fall than usual. Some class sizes may be reduced and others may be moved to larger spaces. A few classes may be offered in online formats where no other method is safe for safe learning is available. It really just depends on the individual courses. We will supply face coverings to all students and are strongly recommending everyone wear them in situations where social distancing can't happen. Hand sanitizers and disinfectant supplies will be available throughout campus. We'll double down on cleaning in high traffic areas. Housing and residence life is taking measures to reconfigure traffic patterns and provide isolation space if needed by students and if they're not feeling well. Meals will also be delivered at the hub and the food court locations in accordance with CDC guidelines, including plexiglass shields and limited seating. We're also opening our own lab to test for COVID-19 here on campus in partnership with Greene Medical Center, the local hospital here in Moscow. The University of Idaho is following state guidelines, and we're planning for in-person events in mid-June with face coverings encouraged and proper social distancing. And in fact, we have 2 U-Idaho-bound in-person events scheduled for June 26th and July 17th. UI-bound events are great opportunities to tour our campus, and we hope that you can attend those. But if you can't make the trip ahead of time, we'll be available to help you finalize your enrollment during Vandal Welcome. Vandal Welcome, Move-In, and Greek Recruitment will all happen as scheduled in August. We're pleased that you are admitted and doing your due diligence. Know that the University of Idaho, that at the University of Idaho, you're not only getting a degree, but you'll be joining a family, our Vandal family. I have that feeling every day as a third-generation Vandal. Here you're surrounded by caring advisors and staff who want to ensure you have what you need to succeed. So I'm excited to see you here in the fall. I know we all are. So go Vandals and see you this fall. Turn it back over to you, Dean.
Thank you, President Greene. We are now ready to move to the Q&A portion of the event. I do have a few questions that have already been submitted by you, the participants, so I will start with one of those. Dr. Eccles, what guidance would you give to students regarding masks, infection control, and social distancing in classrooms, dorms, social gatherings, and sports events, and so on?
Okay, that's quite the question, but that's an excellent question, and I'm sure it's first and foremost at the forefront of everyone's minds. First of all, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This is an exciting time for us. Engaging directly with students and our families is really important to us because you're coming into the Vandal family, and we want to make sure you all feel welcome, and we're going to do our darndest to answer all the questions you have. COVID-19, getting to your questions, Dr. Kaler, is really at the forefront of everything we are doing right now here at the University of Idaho. We are making plans and scheduling opportunities to engage our students in ways that is following CDC guidance and being safe. What we're asking our students to do is several things. First of all, you have to be part of the solution to lowering the curve so that we are not spreading infection. That means bring a mask with you, but we're also going to be providing you a face mask and face covering when you come to the campus. We're going to make sure we're setting you up for that. We're going to have testing available, as President Greene talked about, so that we can test students quickly and timely in getting them some assistance and help for what that looks like coming here. We're going to ask you to engage in social distancing when you're on campus. Sure, you've got friends you're going to be hanging out with. We understand that. We recognize that. But we want you to also engage in behavior that is going to help flatten that curve. So that's washing your hands, not being closer than 6 feet. If you're in a room, clean on a regular basis. Clean things before you use them. Clean them after you use them. Be part of the solution. When you're in your classes, likely going to be wearing face coverings there too, so that we're not spreading that around and infecting others. Ultimately, it's going to take all of us on creating an environment where we're supporting one another and protecting one another, even though we may not feel sick ourselves. We know people can contract COVID-19 and be asymptomatic for several days and then spread it around to other folks. So we want to make sure we're setting our students up for success. We're going to be doing a lot of education and helping them out with that. Regarding social events and activities, there will be opportunities for doing that on campus. It may look a little unique and different initially than what you're used to, but we're going to create a vibrant opportunity. We're going to have sporting events for students to attend. We have a campus recreation center that's going to be open. We'll have club sports that students can get involved with, but we're going to do it with social distancing and safety in mind. And we're working through different plans on what that will look like. Our campus recreation is opening on Monday as an example, where students can come in and start working out again on a regular basis. So we're going to set the campus up for you to be a great experience once you arrive.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. The next question is for Professor Kirschmeyer. How are classes planning on being delivered this fall?
Hey, thanks for your question. We're making a lot of different plans right now for what things are going to look like in the fall. All of our faculty are working to ensure that the material that they are coming to the University of Idaho to learn will be delivered in the best way possible for you. We are looking at a variety of different classroom instruction methods. We're trying to be flexible as we plan. So we're looking at some hybrid formats where you might be in class sometimes, and sometimes you might be doing some online or some Zoom work. We're looking at ensuring that we have lots of social distancing in our classroom spaces in order to try to accommodate those of you who want to be in class, because I want to be in class too. I miss seeing everybody in person. But we're also really trying to be aware of what works for individuals. So, you know, I encourage you to reach out to your faculty members if you have any concerns or if you have any questions about how your class might be delivered, and we can help you with that, right? So, you know, we're all here for you, and all we want you to do is to feel comfortable and safe and learn like you're coming here to do.
Thank you, Professor Kirschmeyer. Linda Campos, will the price of tuition or fees change in the case of an altered or online semester?
Thank you for the question. So the university always considers the fairness to students and also what's appropriate as it relates to the service being delivered. So, so as tuition and fees go, typically, depending on the timing of, let's say, when a closure might occur, there is a possibility that out-of-state students, those paying out-of-state tuition, might see an adjustment to their tuition. We don't typically charge out-of-state tuition for fully online. As an example, in the spring, when we unexpectedly closed, it was well past the halfway point. We did do refunds of things like lab and course fees, those that would typically require face-to-face type of interaction that weren't possible, but we didn't adjust tuition because the learning objectives were still expected to be met. So it really depends on the timing of when such a closure might occur, and all of that would be taken into consideration in order to ensure that we're making decisions that are fair.
Thank you, Linda. President Greene, today an article came out saying that the nation's college presidents are not opening colleges until they know it's safe. Is there a chance that you don't open?
Well, there's always a chance. I mean, things would have to, COVID would have to come back with a vengeance. You know, fortunately here in Latah County, we've only had 6 confirmed cases and I think 1 unconfirmed. So, you know, I don't expect that to happen. I'm not sure what would precipitate that. So we're planning to be open. We're planning to open safely, again, to have regular testing available, thermal scanning available for folks, you know, set up in a way that, you know, we can manage, manage the university in a way that's safe for people, including our high flex model of providing class schedules. So again, you know, we anticipate to be open. There's always a chance that COVID could come back, but it's highly unlikely. And again, we're planning to open.
Thank you, President Greene. Dr. Eccles, what changes should we expect to see in student housing this year?
Excellent question. So we're reducing density in housing. That means in some of our spaces where we're going to have more than 1 student living in, we're actually moving those down to 1 student per room. There will be opportunities, though, where students can also have a roommate if they wish, and that's in a space where they're sharing a bathroom with another set of rooms. So we're looking at as like a family unit where they're in a shared space. If someone gets sick there, then we might likely ask both students to quarantine themselves. We've also set up quarantine space, by the way. If someone does get sick, we can pull them out of the community they're living in and isolate them and get them assistance, and we'll transport them to the hospital for testing and provide them support. We'll deliver meals to them. We have all those plans in place. We were very effective and successful at implementing that this last spring when we had students remain on campus for the rest of the semester. We've also made some adjustments on how meals are going to be provided this fall. Like President Greene referenced earlier, we will have some seating options in our dining facility. It's called the Hub, by the way. But we also have it set up where students can order food online and take their food with them as a grab and go once our seating capacity has been reached. Again, we're looking to follow CDC guidelines for engagement with our students in the residence halls. Some of our students are also interested in fraternity and sorority life, and that's really important to understand that that is a viable living option for first-year students moving forward. All of our fraternities and sororities are making plans to also reduce density. We have sleeping porches in some places, but they're going to have a limited number of students with social distancing guidelines in place for using those. All fraternities and sororities also have what are known as day rooms, where many of those are being converted to single bedrooms for students to live in as well. So all of the plans are getting in place. Meal delivery in our fraternities and sororities are also going to be available. Those plans are still being finalized and developed by our fraternity and sorority community. Our Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life is working very closely with them. We're meeting with them, reviewing those plans and giving them guidance from the institutional perspective. We're also going to provide engaging opportunities in our residence halls as well as fraternity and sorority life for students to engage and connect with one another. But it might not, again, look like it was traditionally. We might not have guests and visitors coming over into our residence halls where friends used to be able to do that, or into a fraternity or sorority. They might not allow that kind of moving forward. So we're needing people to be flexible and understanding of some of the changes that we're making. We're trying to get as close to the traditional college experience as possible, but we have to understand that the time we live in, we've got a horrific virus going around that we don't have a vaccine yet. And our job is to protect our students first and foremost. And that's the value that we're going to lead from.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. One of the questions I will address is it possible to visit the campus this summer? We've never been in the state of Idaho and are hoping to explore Moscow and the surrounding area this summer before school starts. Absolutely. We are going to begin campus tours through our Welcome Center on June 15th, and you can make reservations to go on a campus tour, and those will be available through our admissions website, and you can look for that just by searching for visiting our campus. Dr. Eccles, how do you plan to distance students in the dining halls?
Well, CDC guidance has a 6-foot space requirement, right? And so when students go into the dining hall, they're not going to be able to go serve their own meals like they traditionally used to be able to. We're going to have more sneeze guards up. We'll have meals ready for them. And then we'll have tables set at 6-foot intervals at a minimum so that they can have a dining experience there and eat safely. So we're having it set up that way. They will likely still be able to get their own beverage from some of our beverage areas, but we work very closely with Sodexo. That's the national corporation that provides our food service. They have very specific food delivery guidelines that they have developed for all of their locations, and they're very stringent in regards to what that looks like, from meal preparation to meal delivery to packaging to cleaning afterwards as well.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. President Greene, can you explain what communication tools are used to relay urgent messages to students?
Well, it depends what type of message it is, obviously. We do have, we do include our students on an awful lot of university business, everything from, budgets to, things happening on campus, events. But also there may be those, we do have a very safe campus. And one of the tools we also use when things are very urgent is our vandal alert system. And, that basically goes out, in text messages and emails to alert students if there's a problem on campus, or, if there's something urgent that we need them to know about. Those are the two primary, methods, for getting our communications out quickly: email and vandal alert.
Thank you, President Greene. Another question that I'll answer is it mandatory to visit your university on June 26th, or the July U Idaho bound, or can we skip this trip? We live outside of the state and we're considering COVID situation. We don't want to fly on an airplane if it's absolutely needed. That's a great question. And our University of our U Idaho bound programs are optional programs. You do not have to come to campus. We will work with you. If you'll work with your recruiter, then we will connect you with an academic advisor and we will do our advisement and registration remotely for you. And then we can work with you individually about other needs that you might have that would normally be addressed on the day that you visit for a U Idaho bound. We've already been doing that with many students since the COVID-19 situation has come up, and we've registered nearly 1,000 students as a result, or through our remote options. So it is possible to go through a U Idaho bound experience without having to visit our campus. Blaine Eccles, what are you doing to keep everything clean?
Excellent question. We have an amazing facilities crew on campus that, since this has started, they did a great job cleaning campus to begin with, and they've doubled those efforts since this has all gone down. We actually have a lot of plans in place where we're going to have cleaning supplies available to help clean the rooms for our students. We're going to ask them to help us out in a lot of ways with that. But we're also doubling our efforts to make sure we're cleaning our classrooms on a regular basis more often than we used to, looking to do midday cleans if viably possible. We're also going to have cleaning supplies in the classrooms where students can wipe down their desks, similar to like you see at a grocery store right now, where you can grab one of those hand wipes and kind of wipe down the shopping cart before you push it around. We're looking to source that, as well as hand sanitizers in classrooms as well too. Our cleaning crew, they do a phenomenal job. We're looking to staff that up so we can make sure we're meeting the needs of the campus for cleaning as well. If there is an infection, we'll go in and disinfect that area. If a student in the classroom, for example, gets diagnosed, we'll go in and clean that classroom and disinfect it so that it's safe to continue using as well.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. Another question, are students going to be required to social distance and wear masks? And what kind of masks is required on campus for the fall? Dr. Eccles, can you answer that question?
Yep, happy to. So like I said at the outset, we will be providing a mask or face covering for all students. Students can also provide their own. We know not everyone can fit into a face covering. You can wear a buff, you can wear a nice bandana, something that covers your mouth and your nose to help prevent that spread. But we likely will be asking students to wear face coverings in our campus facilities and definitely in our classrooms. When it comes to your residence hall, you don't need to wear that in your own individual room. That's not what we're asking you to do. But in public spaces, when you're going to be around others and you cannot engage in social distancing, we're going to ask you to do that on campus. Many times students don't feel it's really too worrisome for their own health and safety. And what we have to understand is we all have a responsibility as community members to protect one another. That's why we're going to be asking students to engage in social distancing.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. Our next question asks, so our daughter is from out of state. What will happen if the virus comes back? Will she have a place to stay? What is the dorm situation? Linda, are you ready to answer that kind of question?
Sorry. So the question is, will she have a place to stay? Well, so let me just give an example from the spring. And this is kind of, we've never done this before. So spring was a kind of our experiment, right? And unexpectedly. So when we did move to online, we provided the option to students to stay in university housing. And those that chose to leave university housing, we did provide refunds for the balance of the semester. So I would anticipate that if something happened again in the fall, that the same options would be provided. We're going into this making those assumptions, right? We don't know what the future will bring, but I would anticipate that we could expect that. So definitely would have a place to stay if that were to happen.
Thank you. President Greene, how often will they be planning on screening students for COVID-19? Or will it only be students with symptoms? Are you offering testing on campus?
Yeah, again, we are setting up our own lab, and we do have a health clinic here on campus, and we will, be testing students. The big effort, of course, will be when students return to campus. That's when we would like to test all students to ensure that they're coming in COVID free. Because this, unfortunately, however you want to take a look at this, the virus, you can be asymptomatic and not show signs and still be very contagious. We really want to test as many students as we can right off the bat when they come in. There are some, our athletes obviously are playing sports, and so we'll be testing them much more frequently. And we will have thermal imaging devices around, so if somebody is starting to show symptoms and have a temperature, we'll alert them so that they can also go to the clinic and get tested. At the end of the day, I think a lot of this will be determined as depending on what we learn in those first few weeks about how much of the virus has made its way back to our community. And maybe my guess is we'll require pretty frequent testing in the beginning and less so as the semester goes on, if we are able to control like we hope to.
Thank you, President Greene. Dr. Eccles, how are you having Rush safely? How can you have fraternities with 60 kids living together?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. Many people would ask that question without COVID-19, quite frankly. And so it's a very understandable question. Like I said earlier, just like we're doing in housing and residence life, all of our fraternities and sororities are also reducing density. So while you can have up to 60 to 70 students living in one of our chapter facilities, the likelihood is that's not going to happen. They are reducing the bed space and the living space so that they're going to have a limited number of students in there. That means we're going to be creative in regards to how we bring students into fraternity and sorority life. There may be options for students who want to join a fraternity that they can still continue being part of that organization, but just not living in that facility their first year. It's going to really be contingent upon the size of our chapter facilities because they're not all the same size. So it's really going to be dependent. Our Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life, like I said, is gathering those plans from those chapters right now. As a matter of fact, they're coming in daily because that's what we've asked them to provide us. In regards to fall recruitment, we are having fall recruitment. It typically happens over 4 days, both for the men and the women. We are reviewing different options where we may have some online Zoom options initially, and then a condensed 2-day recruitment plan. Our student leaders, our chapters, and our fraternity and sorority life office are actually working on those plans right now. And students that are interested in learning more should email greek@uidaho.edu, and we will definitely communicate that to you. You can sign up for fall recruitment right now. I encourage you to do so if you're at all interested in fraternity and sorority life. It's a great, awesome opportunity to get involved and connected with students on campus. In addition to housing and residence life, that's also a great experience for students. But many students are really curious and interested about Greek life, and I encourage you to explore that option.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. I'll take the next question, which asks, will there be any option to defer for a year from the University of Idaho at this point in the year due to student life changes on campus? We will allow students to defer their admission for several years. Your admissions decision stands, as does your scholarship opportunity, provided that you don't go take courses at another campus. If you do take courses at another campus, then we would ask you to simply provide us with your transcript so we can evaluate your courses and make sure that your transfer back to the University of Idaho is a smooth one. But we'll work with you individually, and if you have specific questions beyond that, then our admissions counselors would be happy to work with you individually. The next question is having to do with residence halls. And so Linda, if you could respond to the question, since you are going to be limiting space in dorms by making single rooms, what will happen to my room that already has me and another assigned to it? Will I be kicked out?
So first of all, and I may ask Blaine to assist me on this one as well. He has a lot of information about housing. What I can say is housing will be contacting all admitted students basically related to housing arrangements. So I can honestly say no, students won't be kicked out. Blaine, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, there are going to be housing options in housing and residence life where students can have a roommate. So it really kind of depends upon where you are living. If you're in Wallace, that's a location that we've identified where roommates are going to be allowed because they have their own bathroom connected to another room with 2 other students. And so that's going to be a location where students can actually have roommates. If your room is there, you're good to go. Don't worry about that. If it's in Tower or one of our other facilities, we're evaluating which spaces we're going to move to single room space at the moment. Tower is likely to move in that direction just because you don't have a bathroom that you share just with one other room. It's a community bathroom experience. And so we're lowering density so that we can create a safer environment for our students that way. So I would encourage you to connect with Housing and Residence Life. Simply email housing@uidaho.edu and ask them about where you're located, and they'll definitely follow up with you on that.
Thank you. Barbara, Professor Kirschmeyer, when will we find out if classes we are registered for will be remote or hybrid classes? And this might be a difficult question, but and President Greene, you may chime in here also. It's a hard question.
It is a hard question because we can't really predict the future very well to make a clear decision right now today, right? So I think that we hope to be able to reach out and give you a first round of answers and some updates in June. And then President Greene, do you have additional information?
Well, I'd only say that, both Barbara and I, we've been working with the faculty and as well as Provost, Lawrence, with the idea that, our default should be to high flex and to not go solely online unless it's really the only option that we have available to protect our students or protect those who are at risk. So, again, we've kind of given direction that it should be the last option. I don't suspect that we're going to have a ton of classes that are only online. There may be a few, and I've already been made aware of a few. But we're looking at those and trying to figure out other solutions in those cases where that's the solution currently present. So we're doing everything we can to limit those.
Thank you.
And I know that if you're concerned right now about being online and you want to be online, you can find those online classes that are already online, that are traditionally online, and you can register for those right now as well. So those that have always been online, if you feel more comfortable in an online environment, we have those available now.
Barbara, would you define high flex for the students?
Sure. So I'm going to teach a high flex section in the fall. So I will use my own class as an example. So I am teaching a section of English 101, which many of you may be taking. Maybe I'll see you. And so what I'm going to do is in order to allow for some good social distancing in class, I'm going to ask that half the class, 10 students, come to class on Tuesday. And the other half are going to log on to their computers and they're going to zoom in and they're going to watch everything that happens in class on their screen. I can put you into groups to work with your friends on projects if you're on Zoom. I can interact with you just like we're interacting now. You can ask questions. It'll be like you're in the classroom, except zooming in through your laptop, right? And then on the next day of class, on Thursday, those students who came on Tuesday are going to stay home in Zoom. And those of you who stayed at home on Tuesday are going to come to class and hang out in person with me. And again, I'm able to do all the stuff that I do in a regular classroom in this high flex model. Now, if you're sick, if you're worried about coming to class, if you're nervous, if you slept in a little too long, you're always able to do that Zoom option in that high flex space. So you'll always be able to attend class regardless of how you're feeling, or if you need to stay home because you're just not you're not feeling well, or you're worried that you might have to quarantine because perhaps you were exposed to something. The last part of high flex that I think we're still working out a little bit, we want to be able to record all of those class sessions so that if you miss class, you'll be able to watch the class at least to see what you missed. Does that give us a pretty good breakdown of high flex?
Yes, thank you, Professor Kirschmeyer. The next question, some of my friends' schools are planning on ending the semester at Thanksgiving break in order to prevent coming back to campus and increasing the risk of infection. Is that something that the University of Idaho is considering, President Greene?
We are taking a look at that. It's easier said than done. Not all students, work well in an online environment. We also have athletics to take into consideration. We have a December commencement. So, but we are considering it. I will say that. We hope we can come to a decision here in the next couple of weeks so that we give as much time to others to know if we're going to do that or not. But it is under consideration. We just don't know which direction we're going to go yet.
Thank you, President Greene. Linda, with decreasing density of the Greek housing and residence halls, do you have enough capacity for all freshmen to stay on campus? Should we be exploring other housing options?
Yes, we do have capacity for all freshmen to stay on campus.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Eccles, what will the school do if my son's roommate tests positive for COVID-19? Will he be isolated? Perhaps you can maybe discuss the isolation plans.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're going to be doing contact tracing here at the University of Idaho. We're developing a team of professionals, our staff members that are going to be trained, working with public health on how to do contact tracing. And what that means is if your student does come down with COVID-19, we're going to engage with them directly. We're going to relocate them to one of our quarantine rooms that we have set up and we'll have set up on campus, just like we did in the spring semester. We're going to make sure that they're taken care of, getting food, getting to the hospital. We'll transport them to the hospital if need be, and to get tested as well. We asked students this spring, even if they start feeling sick, to let us know so that we can proactively work with them. We might ask them to self-isolate in the room initially until we can get testing done. And then if it becomes, they become diagnosed with it, then we would relocate them to a quarantine. But if we strongly believe they're contagious, then we're definitely going to relocate them immediately there. If your roommate gets it, we're going to ask you to self-isolate and we're going to get you tested too, because you might feel fine while your roommate's sick, but you could be asymptomatic and carrying the virus. So we might look to have you quarantine as well. A lot of it just depends upon where your room is. Can you self-isolate or quarantine in your room, or do we need to relocate you to another space? For the students that we worked with this last spring, it actually worked incredibly well. They were very appreciative of the opportunity to be quarantined away from other students because they were feeling really nervous about being someone that could actually give the virus to someone else. And we really appreciated their leadership, their willingness to work with us on it. And they were very thankful for that opportunity. And I don't see that being any different this fall.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. Linda, a question has been asked, since you said that students will be in single rooms by themselves, does that mean we won't have to pay the single bed fee rather than the double bed fee?
Well, what I can say is that residence hall rates will be adjusted to accommodate single or double occupancy. So we will consider that when, depending on how many students are in a room. Blaine, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We understand that affordability is one of the most important things when it comes to a family, a decision on attending an institution. We are looking at the cost for single rooms. Students that are in a traditional double room, but it gets moved to a single room space, they're not going to be paying that full single room rate. They may not be paying the full double room rate either, though. And Housing and Residence Life is going to be notifying all of the students here within the next week or so that have signed up what those price points are going to be for those spaces.
Thank you. Professor Kirschmeyer, for students who feel sick and must miss class for safety reasons, will in-person classes have some sort of recording in order to allow access to the course material?
For as often as we are able to do that, yes. Yes, that's definitely part of the plan because we want you to be able to stay at home and get better and not worry about coming to class, even via Zoom if you're not feeling well, because you're not going to get as much out of it. So yes, we are definitely working on having everything recorded.
Thank you. Will all faculty, President Greene, I think this one will go to you. Will all faculty, staff, and students be tested before returning for fall semester?
Primarily students. We have had very little, as I said, I think we've had 6 cases, confirmed cases in Latah County. We will make this available, but, our focus, to staff and to faculty, but we've had very little, instances of COVID here. And, anyone who wants to be tested, we'd actually, we're setting up a new lab. We'd like to have them come be tested because it will give us an opportunity to work out all the kinks in our testing process. So, but I can't say that 100% of our faculty or staff will be. We just honestly, there's just not enough virus around right now in Latah County for that to be a concern. It's really, we're more concerned about the virus that's going to be introduced come August.
Thank you, President Greene. Dr. Eccles, is there a chance that freshmen will not be allowed to live in a house, sorority or fraternity, due to reconfiguration and space limitations, or is it too soon to know?
A good question. Kind of like President Greene said earlier, there's always a chance. That's why we've asked all of our fraternities and sororities to develop plans for what that looks like. Each chapter has different chapter facility sizes. Some are much larger than others. They have larger capacity. They have live-in requirements for their other members that they're trying to accommodate too. But I know some chapters are also asking their older members to move out so we can create space for our first-year students. So it just really depends upon the different organization. I would encourage you, like I've said before, is reach out to Fraternity and Sorority Life. If you have a specific interest in a specific organization right now, either a fraternity or sorority, we can put you in touch with their leadership to pose that very specific question. If you're not sure where you're landing, then definitely connecting with our Greek Life staff. They'll give you the most up-to-date information on where we're at. I do know that getting new students involved in fraternity and sorority life is really important to me. It's also really important to our student leaders in those organizations. So we want to create as wonderful of an experience as possible and onboard as many into those organizations as we can. But the reality is we may not have space for all of our students. So we would look to help find them locations otherwise, like in housing and residence life.
Thank you. Dr. Eccles, this one I think you'll handle also. I am disabled. It's not feasible for me to carry food back to my dorm from the hub since I have a mobility scooter. What if I can't eat in because they are at capacity?
Was that to me, Dean? I'm
it was,
sorry.
yes, Dr.
Oh, my bad. So I apologize. Yeah, we got your back. We'll help you out. We fully recognize that some folks have mobility issues. They're not able to carry their food back to their room to eat. So we will help. We will make arrangements so that you can eat. Don't worry, you can eat, and we will get you the food that you need. We've got your back on that. What we would ask is you work directly with Housing and Residence Life, especially when you arrive, but even before then, to let us know of what your needs are, your dietary needs are. We'd also want to connect you with our Center for Disability Access and Resources so we can get appropriate accommodations in place and get you located where you need to be so you can be most successful. But yeah, we will definitely help you out with that. We're not going to have you stay in our housing and residence life and not being able to eat. We're going to make sure you've got food coming to you one way or the other.
So the question is, so in the tower, will I be able to have a roommate if I want? Linda, can you help us with that one?
Actually, in the tower, there will not be accommodation for roommates, I believe. Blaine, do you have something more to add?
Yep, no, I'll just add on to that. Similar to like I answered earlier, because of the community bathroom situation there and students can't use their own bathroom, we've actually reduced capacity in the tower residence hall to 1 student per room in that location.
Thank you. When is the earliest that out-of-state students can move into Wallace? Linda, can you answer that question for us?
Move-in date is August 19th. Right, correct. So that would be the earliest date that that students are allowed to move into any of the residence halls.
Yeah, we do have students sometimes traveling from out of state. We have international students traveling from Alaska that they can't arrive on the 19th. And so we will work with students if they need to move in earlier for their personal reasons. I would encourage students to contact housing directly on that particular question. If it's a day or two before move-in date, we likely can accommodate them. If it's 2 weeks before, that's a different conversation we need to have. But again, we're going to help you get settled in as readily as we can, even if it's 2 weeks before. Just reach out to us, housing@uidaho.edu, and they'll work directly with you. We've worked with many students over the years to accommodate their travel needs because of family timeframes and whatnot like that.
Thank you. Professor Kirschmeyer, do you have an estimate on the number of courses that will be offered in HighFlex?
You know, I don't have an estimate of how many courses are going to be offered in HighFlex. I know that each department and each faculty member is considering the space that we have available, and we're working to figure out what our best moves are going forward. Right, we just want to ensure that we can follow CDC recommendations for social distancing and do our best to keep folks safe and protected. So we don't know that right now, but I would assume we'll have an answer for that fairly soon. I would hope by the end of June.
Thank you, Professor Kirschmeyer. Dr. Eccles, on move-in day, how many people will be permitted to help us move into our dorms?
Excellent. That's an excellent question. We typically have a whole army of Vandal family members out there helping move our students into the residence halls. Given COVID-19 and what's happening, we're going to have a lot of folks greeting and directing and guiding, but we're not going to have as many folks helping move things in for a very specific reason. You don't want people touching your stuff when you don't necessarily know where they've been and how safe they are. And we want to make sure we're protecting our volunteers too. So but we will have carts that you can use to move in, trolleys to move in. We're going to make it as easy as possible for you, give you definitely enough time to move into your residence hall. But we're not going to have the whole football team like we try to have come out and help move you into the residence halls this year. But we're going to dial that back significantly. But we'll have a lot of folks greeting you and welcoming you. And don't worry, parents, we're going to have the parent relax zone while your student actually does all the heavy lifting of their stuff. You can kind of chill out, hang out, maybe dip your feet in one of our little kiddie pools full of water and just kind of relax while they do the work. That's your time to start relaxing.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. Dr. Eccles, will it cost more to live in a sorority or a fraternity if there are less people living there?
Excellent question. It's going to be dependent upon the chapters. Our fraternities and sororities absolutely understand finances are a big concern for our students, just like it is for the university. And so they're going to make it as affordable as reasonably possible for our students. All fraternities and sororities have chapter fees that they assess on their students, whether they live in or live out, in addition to room and board. And I believe chapter fees from all of the members are going to help offset the cost for students so that it's more affordable. But that's something that, again, it's going to be dependent upon each chapter, how many members are living in. And President Greene, I know you were in a fraternity, and look what being a fraternity member can get you. He's a wonderful Kappa Sigma alum, and you become president of a university. Can you talk about your personal experience living in a fraternity? And granted, it was a while ago when your hair wasn't quite as white as it is now as far as the grayness, but about the fee structure and what that looks like.
Yeah, I can't speak to the fee structure now, but yeah, we basically had 2 semesters, where you'd have, your semester fee. And, it was always for me very affordable. I mean, I didn't come from a lot of money and was on a fixed income. But I had my meals all paid for, and they were decent meals, and I knew exactly what everything was going to cost, and for me it was helpful. And again, you just have a built-in social network day one. It's not for everybody. It's high energy. There's a lot asked of you, to be honest. You're going to be expected to get involved in your community, to give back to the community, to be involved in on campus. But those are all good things, but, that it's not for everyone. But, I encourage everyone to go through Rush, just to check it out. And if it's not for you, we have a place for you, in student housing. So, it's worth taking a look at, I would say. Thanks, Blaine.
Dr. Eccles, I think the next question will come to you. Can students travel freely off campus and or back and forth between their home and out of state?
Excellent question. I like to say on a regular basis that I work with adults. They might be young adults, but I work with adults. We are not telling students what they can and can't do once they arrive on campus, because they're there to make adult decisions. So if they want to go off campus, travel home, we're not going to tell them when they can do it. We don't do bed checks. We don't make sure they're eating all their greens. We don't do any of that. That's on the student to do that. That being said, we are asking students to make responsible decisions. So you might come from a high density area where there's a lot of folks that have contracted COVID-19. Knowing you're going home to a community where there's that, you could bring that back with you and impact others. So we're going to ask students to make responsible decisions on that. But we're not restricting students from traveling anywhere. The only travel that's being restricted right now is, quite frankly, international travel in a lot of ways from university sponsored trips. But beyond that, if you want to travel back down to Boise or over to Seattle or back to New York, if that's where you're coming to join us from, you're more than welcome to do that, understanding that your decisions could have implications and impacts on others. We also are not putting a quarantine timeframe in place for anyone traveling to Idaho from out of state. Idaho's just come, we're right in the middle of stage 3 of reopening of the governor's 4 stages. And once we hit stage 3, he's not looking to have quarantine restrictions for folks coming to Idaho from out of state. Other states are not like that, though, and we recognize that. So if that changes, we'll definitely communicate that out to our students. But at the moment, if you come to campus from out of state, we're not going to be asking you to self-quarantine for 14 days. Unless you are feeling sick or you have been diagnosed with COVID-19, then we would ask you to do that. And if you do get diagnosed right before you come to campus, definitely reach out and let us know. We will work with you and your faculty members so you can arrive later in the semester once it gets going in a timely way. We know sometimes when students are sick, they'd rather be home and have mom and dad take care of them. But we got your back. We'll help you out either way.
Thank you. President Greene and Dr. Eccles, this one you might tag team. What conditions have to be met in order to allow for roommates, changes in social distancing requirements, and not requiring masks?
Well, we take our direction, really from, our Division of Public Health, and we work very closely with them and often seek guidance from, when we're making key decisions. When we went through the outbreak, in fact, they were part of, we had literally daily meetings as we responded to the COVID outbreak, and they were a part of that. If they were to give us guidance that, was no longer required, we would then feel comfortable to go ahead and make that decision. But I'm not a doctor, I'm not a healthcare expert, so I rely on those subject matter experts to help advise us on our policy decisions.
And just as a brief follow-up, we have an infectious disease response team, and we've had it for years, actually. And public health is actually part of that. I'm in meetings with them on a weekly basis, talking about that. And just like President Greene said, they are giving us great guidance in informing us on appropriate steps to take. So when those times come, we will be seeking out their guidance and input on that. They're helping inform a lot of the decisions at the university.
Thank you both. So we're nearing the end of the hour, and I want to thank each of you for attending the Future Vandal Town Hall this evening. I hope you found this helpful. If you do have questions that you did not have a chance to ask or that remained unanswered, please send them to us at futurevandals@uidaho.edu. We do have recruiters that will answer those questions directly back to you, and so we'll answer every question that we possibly can. There will also be, as I stated, a recording that will be posted on our website for you to review if you want to go back and review some of the answers that we discussed this evening. Once again, I want to remind you that if you have not already registered for classes for the fall, please feel free to reach out to your recruiter or to an academic advisor. If you do not know who your recruiter is, drop us a note at futurevandals@uidaho.edu, and we will find your recruiter and we will reach out and make contact with you. We will assist you with every single step that you have. Our financial aid office is open. If you have questions for financial aid, you can also drop us a note, and those questions we will respond to those immediately. All of our services on campus are in place. We are still currently working somewhat remotely, but we have all of our services available to you, and you just need to drop us a note or give us a call, and we will do everything that we can to serve you. Once again, thank you for participating in the event this evening. We hope to see you on campus soon. And remember, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Go Vandals. Come Vandals. Come on, Vandals. We want you here. Come on, Vandals.